There comes a moment in every person's life when the noise around you becomes too loud, the opinions too heavy, the expectations too tight, and something inside you begins to whisper, "Step back, step alone, step into yourself." Being alone is not a punishment. Being alone is not abandonment. Being alone is the place where power is born, shaped, and sharpened. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life happen not when you are surrounded by applause, but when you are surrounded by silence. It is in the quiet hours, when no one is calling your name, when no one is checking your progress, when no one is validating your worth, that you begin to hear the truth of who you really are, because the world can only tell you what it sees, but silence tells you what you carry. There is a sacred strength that rises when you stand alone. Not loneliness, a strength that teaches you how to walk without needing someone to hold your hand, a strength that teaches you how to breathe without waiting for someone else to give you permission, a strength that teaches you how to believe in yourself even when no one else does. There is a power that grows when you stop depending on people who were never designed to complete you, and start depending on the purpose that was planted inside you. Being alone forces you to confront the truth about your life. When the crowd disappears, you can no longer hide behind distractions. You have to face your fears, face your insecurities, face your wounds, face your dreams, face your calling, and it is in that confrontation that transformation begins. Growth doesn't come from comfort. Change doesn't come from convenience. Power doesn't come from popularity. Power comes from the place where you stand alone and decide, "I will rise anyway." Some people fear being alone because silence makes them hear themselves. But hear me, what you call emptiness is actually space for expansion. What you call isolation is actually preparation. What you call being left behind is actually being set apart. Life will sometimes pull you away from people not to punish you, but to position you, to build you privately so you can stand publicly, to strengthen you inwardly so you cannot be shaken outwardly, to teach you that peace is not found in people. It is found in presence, purpose, and personal truth. When you learn to walk alone, you become dangerous, not to the world, but to the things that once controlled you. Fear can't hold you. Doubt can't stop you. Opinions can't distract you. Validation can't buy you. Because when a person discovers their own identity in solitude, they no longer beg the world for confirmation. They start moving with clarity, confidence, and conviction. They stop living small because they finally feel the power of standing tall. Being alone changes your life because it changes you. It teaches you that you are enough, even when no one is clapping. You are strong, even when no one is watching. You are capable, even when no one is helping. You are worthy, even when no one is choosing. And when you learn to be whole by yourself, then, and only then, will you be ready for the people, the opportunities, and the blessings that match the strength you have cultivated. So embrace the season where it's just you. Protect it, honor it, don't rush out of it, because one day you will look back and realize that the moment you stopped fearing being alone was the moment you stepped into your greatest power. The moment life began to shift. The moment you finally understood that being alone was not breaking you. It was building you. It was shaping you. It was preparing you to become the version of yourself that the world is waiting to meet. Being alone is a season most people try to escape, yet it carries a kind of power that reshapes the entire direction of a person's life if they learn to embrace it instead of running from it. When you stand in a space where no voices are guiding your steps, no hands are holding your balance, and no crowds are cheering your progress, something deep inside you begins to shift. You start to meet the unfiltered version of yourself, the one that is not influenced by the noise, the pressure, or the expectations of others. You begin to hear thoughts you once drowned out. You begin to recognize strengths you once overlooked. You begin to confront weaknesses you once avoided. Being alone becomes the environment where clarity grows because you are finally able to differentiate between what you want and what people want from you. There is a transformative power in solitude that teaches you how to stand without leaning on approval. When you learn how to be by yourself, you learn how to trust yourself. You learn how to think independently, how to breathe without waiting for reassurance, how to make decisions without seeking permission. You realize that the confidence you were searching for in people was actually waiting within you the entire time. Being alone builds a foundation of inner strength that crowds can never create. Crowds can inspire you, but they cannot define you. Crowds can encourage you, but they cannot build you. Crowds can clap for you, but they cannot grow you. Growth comes from those quiet, uncelebrated moments when you face your truth and choose to rise above it. In solitude, you begin to see your life more honestly. You notice what truly matters and what you have been holding on to just because it was familiar. You begin to understand which relationships were feeding your spirit and which ones were draining it. You start to recognize which goals belonged to your heart and which ones were simply adopted from the expectations of others. And as this clarity sharpens, you feel something awakening inside, a kind of strength that whispers, you are capable of more, you are built for more, you are meant for more. This awakening doesn't happen in the middle of noise. It happens in the quiet corners of being alone. Being alone teaches you discipline because no one is watching to congratulate your small victories. You learn to motivate yourself. You learn to depend on your own consistency. You learn to celebrate your progress even when no one notices the effort it takes. And in those moments, you develop a kind of resilience that cannot be shaken by criticism, rejection, or delay. When you have walked alone through the seasons of self, doubt, and still kept moving, you become unbreakable in a way that people who always relied on others never become. Solitude also becomes the place where vision is born. Without the noise of competing opinions, your dreams become louder, your purpose becomes clearer, your direction becomes stronger. You start imagining possibilities you never considered before because you finally have the mental space to dream without limits. And once that vision takes root, it begins to guide your actions, your choices, your habits. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You stop chasing validation and start chasing purpose. You stop settling and start building. Most importantly, being alone reconnects you with your own worth. When you no longer measure your value by how people treat you, you begin to understand the depth of who you are. You realize you are enough even when no one affirms it. You realize you can rise even when no one helps. You realize you can thrive even when no one believes. And once you carry that level of self-worth within you, life changes. Because you change, there are seasons in life when separation becomes the very ground where transformation begins. You don't always get stronger in the crowd. Sometimes you get stronger when the crowd disappears. When life pulls you away from familiar voices, familiar routines, and familiar comforts, it is not always a sign of loss. Sometimes it is the universe rearranging your environment so you can finally see the parts of yourself that were hidden behind the noise. There is something about being alone that forces a deeper kind of honesty, a deeper kind of courage, a deeper kind of awakening. When there is no one to distract you, you begin to face the truth you avoided, the growth you delayed, the healing you postponed. And though it may feel uncomfortable, it is in this discomfort that the seeds of change begin to rise. Being alone sharpens your ability to hear what life has. Been trying to tell you all along, in the middle of noise, your intuition gets drowned out. You get pulled in the direction of opinions, expectations, and external pressure. But when everything grows quiet, you hear the whispers of wisdom that were always present. You begin to understand what is breaking you, what is building you, what is calling you, and what is limiting you. You start to differentiate between the voices you've been listening to and the voice you were born with. That inner voice, once you learn to trust it, becomes your compass. It guides you through confusion, through uncertainty, through the kind of decisions that shape the architecture of the rest of your life. Solitude doesn't silence guidance, it amplifies it. There is also a kind of spiritual and emotional strength that emerges when you learn to be whole on your own. Many people rely on company to fill spaces they refuse to explore. They cling to relationships, friendships, and crowds because the silence feels intimidating. But when you choose to walk alone, you begin to discover that the emptiness you feared is actually space for growth. You learn how to support yourself, how to soothe your own emotions, how to encourage yourself when doubt rises. You learn how to rebuild without needing someone else to hand you the pieces. You realize that your survival does not depend on who stays, but on who you become. This realization reshapes the confidence you carry. It teaches you self-reliance, self-awareness, and self-respect. Being alone also becomes a training ground for emotional maturity. It forces you to understand your patterns, your triggers, your weaknesses, and your strengths. You begin to notice the habits that sabotage your progress and the beliefs that limit your potential. Solitude gives you the room to break old cycles and create new ones. It becomes the place where you learn discipline, discipline of mind, discipline of emotion, discipline of purpose. When no one is watching, you learn how committed you truly are. When no one is cheering, you learn how determined you truly are. When no one is helping, you learn how resourceful you truly are. These lessons, earned in quiet seasons, become the foundation of unshakable growth. There is a shift that happens inside you when you stop fearing solitude and start embracing it. You stop settling for anything that disturbs your peace. You stop clinging to people who drain you. You stop chasing approval that adds nothing to your purpose. You start recognizing your value not by how people treat you, but by how deeply you've come to understand yourself. The more comfortable you become with your own presence, the more selective you become with who you allow into it. You begin to protect your energy, guard your growth, and prioritize your healing. Solitude becomes the place where you rise from old versions of yourself and step into the person you were always meant to be. There comes a time when life pushes you into a space where it is just you, your thoughts, your truth, and the path ahead. At first, it may feel like everything has been stripped away, like you are walking through a season you never asked for. But as the days pass and the silence settles, you begin to realize that this separation is not meant to break you, but to reveal you. When you stand alone, without the shield of relationships, without the comfort of distraction, without the reassurance of company, you meet the version of yourself that was waiting beneath the noise. You discover strength you did not know you had, courage you never thought you could carry, resilience you never believed was yours. Being alone becomes less of a burden and more of a birthplace for the person you were created to become. In this season, you begin to see life with a clarity you never experienced before. When the world grows quiet, your vision sharpens. You start to understand what feeds your spirit and what drains it. You start to see the difference between what you were taught to want and what your soul actually desires. You begin to recognize how much energy you were spending trying to please people who were never meant to shape your destiny. Alone, you gain the courage to walk away from what doesn't align with your purpose. Alone, you find the boldness to dream beyond what others believe. Alone, you learn to trust the process, even when the path is uncertain, because you finally hear the voice inside telling you that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. There is a power that grows in you when you stop seeking validation and start seeking direction. You no longer live for the applause of others. You no longer measure your worth by how many people stand beside you. You stop trying to prove yourself to those who never took the time to understand you. Instead, you start building yourself from the inside out. You start choosing habits that strengthen you. You start forming thoughts that elevate you. You start taking steps that align with the future you envision. This inner transformation is something no one can give you and no one can take away. It is the kind of transformation that only solitude can initiate. As you embrace this journey, you begin to understand that being alone is not the absence of love, but the presence of growth. It teaches you how to love yourself in ways you never have. It teaches you how to listen to your own needs, honor your own boundaries, and speak to yourself with compassion instead of criticism. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you stop depending on others to fill the spaces within you. You stop chasing after people who cannot appreciate your worth. You understand that peace is not found in the company of many, but in alignment with yourself. And once you taste that kind of peace, you refuse to trade it for anything less. This season of solitude also becomes the place where your purpose starts to unfold. Without the influence of outside voices, you begin to notice the passions that ignite your spirit. You recognize the dreams you buried under fear. You rediscover the talents you ignored because life kept you busy. You start to see glimpses of the person you can become if you continue to grow, to learn, to heal, to rise. Being alone gives you the space to transform not only your surroundings, but your identity, your mindset, your future. You realize that every step taken alone prepared you for every place you are destined to reach.